Hello, Happy New Year. Welcome to episode 29 of When We Are Healed. I'm excited to welcome my dear friend Corey Marsh onto our show today. Corey is an entrepreneur, spiritual teacher and guide, energy and sound healer, and spiritual aspirant. He resides in Sandy, Utah with his wife and 4 kids. And today he's here to talk about this profound spiritual awakening experience that he had on August 8th, 2019, during the Lionsgate portal that shifted everything for him and put him on the path of self-realization. So guided by divine inspiration, Corey aims to serve others with what he's found and play his part in this great awakening. He has been a student and teacher of A Course in Miracles. And in fact, I first met Corey through an online A Course in Miracles community called Living the Course with Aaron Abke and Mark Anthony Lord. Mark has been a guest in our show before. And we studied the course together every day for 3 years, I think. Yeah. And we also got to facilitate study groups and workshops together. And one of the things I admire about Corey is the way he walks through life with his heart wide open, radiating love, gentleness, and kindness, while also embodying that beautiful, strong, steady, divine masculine energy. And I'm really grateful for how honest and vulnerable he was willing to be in this interview in sharing about not only this incredible full body awakening experience that he had, but also about the period of turmoil that he went through prior to that, which involved mental health challenges, substance abuse, and a divorce. Because I know so many of us have been going through really intense challenges, sometimes for years. And Corey's story is a reminder that all of that, as difficult as it may feel, is serving a higher purpose. It's preparing us for something far greater than our minds can ever imagine. And one of the things I found to be so helpful in moving through those dark times is to be a part of a community of like-minded brothers and sisters walking this path with me. And that's why Corey and I, along with our dear friends Megan Cefalu and Jason Deerdorf, co-founded an online community called In Light of the Course. We have our own private online group on a platform called Mighty Networks, where you can connect with fellow spiritual seekers who share a passion for A Course in Miracles and other pathways. And we also currently offer several workshops, gatherings, and discussion groups every week. It's a really wonderful place to connect with people who are living and breathing the teachings of oneness, A Course in Miracles, and are committed to supporting one another through whatever comes up, because we're in the human experience and things do come up. So if you're curious, I invite you to check us out at inlightofthecourse.com. You can join us now and try 7 days for free. Now, without further ado, let's dive into our conversation with Corey Marsh. Corey, my brother, I am so excited to have you on the show. Welcome to When We Are Healed.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me. I've been having so much fun watch you work on this project, and it's been beautiful to watch your growth and your journey with it, and it's inspiring. So thank you.
Thank you. I just want to get us started right away with the story of your profound awakening at the airport that I was so moved to hear from you the other day. And it's particularly of curiosity to me because I personally have not had a big quote unquote like awakening mystical experience that shifted my life in the dramatic way that I understand it might have been for you. And I think so many listeners might be curious about it as well. So I was wondering if you could start by sharing with us some of the challenges that you were going through in your human experience before you had that awakening. Because knowing you today, Corey, I could have never imagined that you were going through such intense challenges in your life at one point. And I think sharing that is going to speak to the listeners in so many ways about how incredibly how there's such a divine will, divine orchestration happening in our life where we could find ourselves in such a dark place, a dark night of the soul at one point, but it's for a higher purpose, or that's setting us up for a big healing that we didn't even know was possible. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it definitely resonates with me. Yeah, so I was born here in Salt Lake City, Utah in 1986, right in the middle of the LDS country, Mormon country, as some know it, or Mormons. um, so I grew up in the church in an organized religion. And from a young age, I always felt very connected to God and Christ. And that was always very apparent to me that there was something there. But as I grew up in that environment, and you become a teenager, you go through puberty, you're exposed to all these different ideas and beliefs and things like that. And so definitely went through a lot of struggles in my teen years of anxiety, depression, um, in just reconciling, trying to live within church standards and make it to heaven, and the pressure of that at such a young age, it really affected me. And then, I about 16 years old, I started to get some therapy. I was on antidepressants and things. Eventually it led me to, start getting in some trouble, using substances, alcohol, a lot of turmoil and pain, and which eventually, led me to, kind of being pulled out of my school, put in a rehab and counseling facility for mental health and substance. And, I just didn't even understand a lot of what was going on. And that was a really sobering experience, being pulled out of my life and like, wow, how did this happen? So part of me kind of was guided by that spirit I always felt of God, to like, okay, like there's something here, there's something more to life. And so I decided to kind of really jump in with my church, and I wanted to contribute. I felt like with all the chaos I had caused in my family, for my parents, things like, I wanted to start creating more of a positive contribution. And that was like the biggest way I knew how in my experience. So I got all ready. I started going to church. I got away from substances. I was still working through my depression and things, but things got better. And then I decided to go on a mission for the church at 19. And when I got out there, like, it was a lot. It was really hard almost every day. Like, my depression went way up. I was trying to get off medication at the time too, which I don't know if that was the best, but I did. But everything has a purpose. But I really struggled out there, and like my heart was in the right place. But when I would hear my companions and others tell people their beliefs weren't like correct and different things, it like just really was like a knife in my heart, and I definitely had some beautiful moments out there where God showed me its presence, and I knew that I had a purpose there. But I ended up, getting even more and more depressed and homesick, and just stopped feeling connected. And so I ended up coming home after about 5 months. And when I got home, it just it just all felt different. A lot of my friends were on missions, they were gone. I just felt so confused. I felt like a failure. I just wanted the pain to stop, you know? And so I ended up leaving the church completely. Um, and I kind of got back into, partying and substances and things to keep me distracted. Um, and essentially that kind of went on for a long time. Like my heart was shut off. I was disconnected from spirit. Like outwardly, you would maybe think like we're having a good time, hanging with friends and things, but there's just a lot of inner pain that I don't know where it came from, but it just that I carried with me. So go down the road ways. I'm married. I got two kids. Um, Trying to find what happiness looks like a true life of meaning, and it just felt so just disconnected and dense, and I just didn't have any light in my life. Looking back now, um, and I found I got into fitness around 27, 28. I had an injury. I blew out my left knee, and then I went through that whole period of recovery, and I lost all my muscle, and I felt like crap. And so when I started, it was really hard. But I decided, like, man, I'm never going to restart this again. I'm gonna take care of this body. Like maybe that's a way I can be happier too. So I went down that road, and I found a lot of joy in learning how my body worked and what's, about nutrition. And I even went into fitness competitions, and like, I thought that was the greatest thing, and it almost felt like I'd found my salvation in that or something, a lot of joy. But eventually I saw the shallowness of it, and everything else came back, the depression, the darkness. I started to kind of isolate myself and numb out, like, with alcohol and things, like not crazy, but I just wasn't there. I wasn't present for my family, like I wish I could have been. Um, but I know it all happens for a reason. So eventually, all that chaos I created, my wife finally had to call it quits, and we decided to get a divorce, and that shattered me. But it also, I remember the day she told me, and I lost all strength. I collapsed. Um, but it cracked something open in me. Um, and so I said, well, like, I don't know if I've ruined my life or, um, what this is all for, but I know I deserve happiness. And I realized too, like, sorry, that the alcohol wasn't the issue. Like the things, like they were a symptom of something underlying. And so I decided to, I had it back then. I was running a digital marketing agency, like business, and one of my clients was a recovery place. Apologize, I'm already juicing. Like it's a bad sign. We're just getting into it. No, or a good sign. So, okay, what was I saying? So my one of my clients at that agency was like a recovery center, and I'd always thought they were awesome because they had an approach of like, you're not broken, you're not an addict, you're not depressed, like you're experiencing these things because there's something. These are symptoms of something within you that gets to heal. And I started to embrace that. I'm like, yeah, I don't have to carry these labels. I don't have to be an alcoholic or an addict or a divorcee, like a failed marriage. Like I don't have to carry those labels. And so that I got sober. I put it all away, and I really wanted to heal. I decided, I'm like, my kids were only, um, geez, how old were they? Like six, or let's see, 5 and 7, or 6 and 8, right around there. And I'm like, I want to build the greatest life with them. And show up as the dad I want to be. So I I dove in. I said, I'm figuring this out, and like I want to heal. So that took me a long way. I found a lot of myself again during that period. Um, I was starting to feel light again, feel hopeful. Start to realize that like there's so much I could create still in my life. And it was interesting. And then at this time, so a couple of years, like, yeah, so shortly after the agency, I was, and all this happened, I started to get this strange feeling that I was about to go on a trip. Like, I don't know if you've ever had that feeling, like when you have a trip planned and like it's coming, whatever. And then there's like this energy or feeling that about it. I don't know if you experienced that. But I could feel that. And I'm like, and I didn't have anything planned. And I was like, huh, like, am I going on a trip? And then I was like, well, maybe I should go on a trip. I'm like, I'm single, like I'm getting this whole new lease on life. Why not? And so I was actually started to look around. I'm like, where should I go? Um and then like within a day or two of that, um a friend of mine messaged me, said, hey, I got this interesting like business opportunity. Do you want to catch lunch with us and hear about it? And I'm like, sure, because they knew I was an entrepreneur. And so I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, I was a yes to like everything life wanted to bring me, basically. I mean, if it was in alignment and positive. And so I went to that lunch and I met my friend and his new Chinese business partner. We had a great conversation and lunch, and I find out his family, the Chinese business partner, his name is Jason Zhao. That he had all these, his family had a bunch of factories in China and lots of cool products and different things they wanted to show. And they invited me to go to China. He said, hey, if you get your ticket, we'll get your visa, we'll pay for hotel, everything. And I was like, I was kind of giggling in the back of my mind. I was like, oh, that's where I'm going. So I said yes immediately. And probably it was within like 10 days, I had my visa. And then like within a week after that, I was on my way to China. Um, but when I was booking my flight, um, I remember like a couple of my friends were living in Thailand, and I'm like, wow. And I looked up and I'm like, how close is that to Thailand? Like, man, it's pretty close. It was like a 3 or 4 hour flight or something like that. It wasn't too bad. So I messaged them. I'm like, hey, what are you guys doing out there? I want to come see. And they're like, yeah, come on out. So I said, done. So booked my flight to China and then connection to Thailand, and then from Thailand back. And some of them I had some work and things to do. So the initial group went out a couple of days before. So I just jumped in both feet. I flew all the way to China by myself. And and I had to connect in Shanghai for another flight to get down to Guangzhou. And just the shock, the culture, like I was totally just in trust of like, and just like a little child, just leave me. I trust, like people are going to get me there. And, and I get there, I arrive, and they lose my bag. So I don't have anything. And, and so my Chinese friends and my other friends pick me up and they take me and get me taken care of. And I felt so helpless, but it was also so amazing to watch just life show up and support me. Like I couldn't even buy my own things. You have to have like a digital currency and different things over there. And everyone was just taking care of me. People were giving me clothes to wear, toiletries, like I was just watching life just take care of me. Um, and I just felt so good. There was something in me. Like I was even starting to get like this rash and things, and like I didn't have my bag. I'm way over in China. I'm jet lagged. I can't read English anywhere. I'm like culture shock, But I was just like a beaming child, and I saw a reflection of myself in someone else that was with us and had all their stuff, and they weren't having physical elements, and like how much things they had to complain about, and how negative, and it was like such a drastic meet, or like a contrast, such a heavy contrast, you know, for me to see. And that took me deeper. I'm like, wow, like I really am just like, I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful for everything I have, and that I didn't die. Because during that time before I got divorced, like I had this a dreadful feeling like if I keep going, I'm gonna die, you know. And so here I was in China, getting taken care of, making the best of it, trying not to worry about my bag. And I couldn't. It was like a nightmare. Like I could not work with the airline myself to get my bag. Like it's definitely like without my Chinese friends, like I would have been so lost. But they all showed up for me. And as the days, I think I was there like 5 days, and then I was going to Thailand. And as the day kept getting closer, um, I had some nights where I was just kind of all by myself in my hotel room in China. And like the feeling of that, being so alone, so far away, like without anything. And also a big part of me losing my bag, I had my depression medication in that bag. That's a big point to make. So I didn't, and that's the one that'll kind of go out of your system within a day or two. So like by a couple days in, like I'm like detoxed from it essentially, like it's out. And this had been years since I had not taken it. Um, but as the day approached, I started getting nervous, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to. I think I had to move my flight once actually, and I was stressed about the money of that, and like, just like getting worried, and it was just starting to take me, and then it started to get me with the thoughts of like shame and guilt about what I had done to my life and stuff. And so I'm just in this little hotel room, just alone with my thoughts, my feelings, everything, and it just hit me at once. And I finally like I surrendered. Like I dropped to my knees, and I opened my arms, and I just said, ah, like, God, please, you know, show me what my life is for. Like, please, show me I didn't waste it. And I felt like a peace come over me. Took a deep breath, and I kind of relaxed and, wiped the tears from my eyes. And I decided to trust. It just felt like my prayer was answered. And so I went to bed, not knowing if I was going to be able to get my bag and go the next day or what. But then I woke up the next day, and before I knew it, one of my Chinese friends was calling me saying, "Hey, we located the bag. I think we're going to be able to grab it, right, and get you on your flight." So they took me down. It lined up perfect. They were able to find the bag just in time. They brought it to me. They took me over, got me taken care of into security, and off, to go board my plane. And when I finally when I got to that, they had these little waiting rooms, before you go out and walk onto the plane outside upstairs. Standing in this room, and I kind of realized like that I was the only American in that room, and like how like amazing and like and beautiful that was, and like also how grateful, like how am I here, like sorry, like how did I deserve this, with all I've done, were the thoughts. And I was standing there just kind of contemplating all this and just feeling so grateful. um and I started to feel this energy building in my legs and kind of starting to work upward. And I started to kind of shake, and then and it was getting stronger, and I was like kind of shuddering standing there. And then when I felt it hit my chest, like I felt like a pop in my, in the center of my chest, my heart, and it felt like all this air and stuff was like flooding out of my pores, like extreme chills and bliss. And when that happened, I started shaking. I started having these like downloads, like these visions, these messages of like the perfection of creation and like how like each one of us is placed perfectly where we are to play our part in this great happening, you know? And I saw that it was all perfect, that I was being prepared for something like we all are, you know, that these were all gifts and that there was no plan that our creator, God, whatever you want to call it, would create that it could lose one piece of itself. I just saw it so clearly. And this weight and all this guilt, shame, everything just started to just fall away. And like the bliss of that realization and seeing the like like one religion can't reach the world, one message can't reach, it's so obvious. Like everything, there's something that resonates here for each of us to take us to that joy, that peace, that oneness that we truly are. Um, so man, I was like, oh, all these people don't think I'm crazy. I'm like crying and shaking in this room, and like, oh, so I, clean myself up, and they go, all right, and they go, time to board, and I just remember, I don't even think I could feel the ground. Like I just floated out onto that plane, and I could just feel this like warmth and familiarity with all the people around me. And I'm like, how do these people feel familiar? Like I'm halfway around the world, I'm on the other side of the world. And I remember I had a great flight, and then same thing. I just floated off the plane, and started meeting people, having experiences. And I just remember the most drastic realization, like when I got there, and it didn't hit me till I finally got to China, but I know I was kind of experiencing it on the way. But I just hit me like when I was looking into someone's eyes, I had the deepest sense that I was in there too, like that I was already there, and I'm like, and I could see it in everyone's eyes. And I was like, and I just, it felt like I was like, what happened? Like I feel like I'm in such, like I was on drugs or something, just such high bliss and peace and excitement, exuberant, enthusiasm for life. I remember some of the days I had by myself there, just exploring on my own, and just going out there, like, and like just like listening to music and dancing, and like my energy was infectious. Anywhere I'd walk, like people would light up. So I just had the most beautiful experience over there. And and I was around all these beautiful temples and all these, Buddhist statues, and it just started opening me up. And I'm like, you know, and hearing more about the Buddha while I was there and that story. And like, it just started opening me up. And I realized I'm like, hey, I could look at any spiritual teachings I want. Like I don't have to live in this box of my religion and that's something I had lost. I didn't know spirituality and religion. Like I didn't know the difference early on. Um, so when I had a great time in Thailand, life-changing experience. The whole time my rash and stuff I mentioned was getting worse. I don't have medication. I mean, I didn't take my medication once I got it back. I was like, that was part of my realization too, that was supposed to happen so that I could be set free from that for me. And I'm not saying, medications are wrong for anyone. I know they serve their part. But it was just my time to not have that part of my experience anymore. So I realized that. And so, the whole time I'm gone, my parents are kind of worried about me. They know I'm kind of sick, and I actually went and got an antihistamine in Thailand. It said from a pharmacist, it said antihistamine on it. And I'm taking that one like, oh, this is the one that's going to cure me up, and, so religiously. And then when I got back, I'm kind of jumping ahead, but just to speak to that, I had this realization because I couldn't read the name of it. There was no English name, but I had the realization to look up the logo. It just like popped in my head, like look up the logo. I was like, oh, so I looked it up and it ended up being penicillin, which I'm actually allergic to. So an antibiotic. So I was making myself worse. I actually, instead of I kept taking it, I could have potentially even like died. It was pretty bad, but I didn't care about any of that. And so, but I get back. My parents are all worried, and I had this camping trip planned with my dad, and me and my buddy are driving up to meet him. My dad and his dad are good friends, and we were meeting them for this camping trip. And I could just see he was just looking at me like this. I'm sharing my stories and experience and like what I'm seeing and experiencing, and he's just like, "Oh my gosh, like this is incredible!" Like it was infectious. Like I was in such a high vibrational state. I still so this is like a week and a half or so, almost 2 weeks in, right? And so we finally get up to the camp, and I get out of the car and I see my dad like 20, 30 yards away over by the tent. And I kid you not, like I could just see this big dark aura around him. Like with my physical eyes, I could see it. And I was like, oh no. And it felt like the complete, it just felt very like constricting. And then we ended up like getting into this little argument. It spiraled, and I basically went from way up there to just boom. And then I was just like, oh, and mad. And we had this interaction, and I ended up leaving. So I'm like, I'm not staying. So I driving home. And as I was driving into the mountains on my way back, after I kind of calmed down a second, I was just like, wow, like what a drastic shift from where I was just at. And then I was like, well, well, what was that? Like, it wasn't on drugs or anything. I didn't, take something special. I didn't like, what was that? Is that something that's available? Do people like live in that space, you know? And then as I started to open up to spiritual things, I found like Alan Watts and all his beautiful inspiration and stuff on YouTube and his books. And then it led me to like Eckhart Tolle, and the Buddha's teachings. But I started to realize that it was available, that like that we can, you know, create or find that state of being. And so it led me onto a deep. I jumped in with my spiritual, journey. Yeah, and it led me to beautiful teachers, like our shared teacher, Aaron Abke, lots of teachers and things I've found here in my local community. All these things would show up at the right time, and they were just all little supports of deepening my healing and awakening. And then Aaron started to he was a big fan of Course in Miracles, as we know. And um, I remember the first year he did Living the Course program, and I still had a lot of wounds around the Christian language. Funny enough, I was studying from him. I was studying the Law of One at the time, and that was beautiful. That opened me up in a whole new way and helped me start to realize what I was seeing in Thailand, like seeing my presence, the presence in everyone else. But after a year of kind of studying that stuff and some of his other teachings, and then some, and reading, Eckhart Tolle's books, I loved his books, The Power of Now, The New Earth. Like The Power of Now opened up a bunch of space in me where I could finally see like that I'm not my mind and my thoughts, and they all just play these beautiful parts, and I'm so grateful. But so then I didn't do the first year. So did you do the first year?
I didn't.
Okay. So we started at the same time, right?
Yes.
So I hopped on in year 2. I said, okay. I think right before I finally had healed enough, I'm like, oh, like I started to see the things that were in the Bible and what Jesus taught, like what he was saying. I started to hear it in a completely new way. And I started to realize, oh, like it's separate. I don't have to throw it in with the church. So I opened back up and I said, okay, like this course seems to be calling me. Like I want to try this out. And so I hopped on board same time as you, and I'm so grateful. That's how we met. And the course for me, was just doing the lesson each day and like having one, like mantra or thought, or it just really, I really loved that. And I started to get into my routine and the way I met the world every day. I would do the lesson and meditate first thing, do the lesson with everybody in the morning, and then go into my day. And that was really, and I'm watching what shifted my like lived experience, like of actually showing up in the embodiment of what I had been shown was possible, the best. And it's not to say like I'm fully arrived or perfect, or the ego gets me at times. I go into suffering and I make mistakes, but the willingness and the choice and the resolve to always to come back to peace, to truth, to love is what the course really has shown me. And now I'm in my fourth year of the program facilitating. And I can't believe it's really a beautiful gift to look at how much I've shifted and grown. And like, I never would have thought I'd be facilitating, lessons or leading meditations or feeling worthy to like play a part in someone's healing. But after that, awakening experience, that profound, being shown all that, like, that's my greatest joy now. If I could, I know that I don't have to do anything. Like if I'm just available and listening, that God, spirit, universe can use me to bless anyone and play a part. Like my greatest joy would be to play some small part in assisting someone on their own journey of finding peace and wholeness within themselves. So yeah, so that really sparked me out. And during that time, I was really feeling the pull. I was running another business called Pet Door Products. Won't get into that, but I was running that. But it was just feeling like I was kind of almost like hiding from the world there working on that business. Like I just didn't feel like I was making the contribution that my soul wanted to make. And so I kind of took the leap and I sold my equity and I in the company and left. Not really knowing exactly where I was going to land. So it's a good business. It was providing, but I had come to such a point with the course, especially that like I knew like, there's a far greater power than me at work here. And like, let me trust in that and not my own understanding. So, so I took the leap and, and that stirred up a whole new nest, stuff, shadows, dark night, things that I did not anticipate happening. I was in such a place. I'm like, man, this feels like, oh, I'm so healed. But there's always more. There's always, can always cultivate more peace. So it's been a journey this last year and it's really put me to the test of like, do you really truly believe and know that this is available, that like I can have peace instead of this, that I can choose again, that I'm giving meaning to everything. Like, um, and it's been a journey. And the one fixed point is, the presence, the spirit that, has kept me in trust and moving forward. And now we're in this place where, you and we've created our own with a couple of our beautiful friends, a beautiful spiritual community in light of the course. As initially, as people were kind of moving on from living the course, we wanted to stay connected and be able to share a space where we could study other things and come together. So it's been a beautiful thing to create that with you. And I know that that's just at the beginning stages, and excited to see what spirit does with that. And then my wife and I have a business we're building up called Conscious Creations, and she's an advanced yoga teacher, trauma informed. We both do sound healing and Reiki. I love to be a spiritual guide and coach. Both of us do. So we want to start to create more experiences and offerings for people here locally and then online too, for certain things. But it was really strange too, because like I'm like, how do I start a business in spirituality? Like it just didn't feel like it went together. Like how what, do I make money with this? You know, and with other businesses, I'm like, oh yeah, like and I can figure it out. You know, so it's been a whole new, like a lot of trust, a lot of guidance. Like I'm still, you know, there are days the ego tries to get me, like, what'd you do? You sold your business, you know. Um, but then in those moments when I start to forget, I got beautiful friends like you and Megan and Jason and other people that have been alongside me on this journey. And like, it's just so beautiful.
It really is. Oh, Corey, thank you so much for your courage in sharing your story with us and being willing to go to these vulnerable places. I'm imagining that it's not easy, especially appearing in the male embodiment. That might be extra. Um, requires extra courage. So I feel so honored to receive that. And there's a couple points that I want to backpedal and ask you about. But I first want to give a shout out to LTC, Living the Course, the community where Corey and I met, and some of my other guests on the show have been a part of. So Living the Course is a community created by our teachers Aaron Abke and Mark Anthony Lord. Mark has been a guest on this show too. And Corey and I got to join in the second year of its inception. And when we joined, there was a recording of the daily lessons with Mark and Aaron breaking it down for us and bringing in all these different teachings from not only A Course in Miracles, but also non-duality, Buddhism, and other disciplines, and helping us deepen our understanding of what Jesus is saying in A Course in Miracles. And so we all get to do the daily lessons. There's 365 lessons in the workbook of A Course in Miracles, each one with a specific thought or mantra that we are to work with that day to the best of our ability. And we had a weekly Q&A session with Mark and Aaron, and there were opportunities to connect with each other. We got to go on a retreat together and meet each other in person. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I'm just so profoundly grateful for about this community is the, how do I even express this in words? It's the first spiritual community that I've been a part of where I feel like there was a more balanced ratio of women and men in the community, especially in A Course in Miracles. And I've been A Course in Miracles student kind of on and off since 2005 or 6. And I remember at that time in the beginning, if I were to go to A Course in Miracles class or workshop, it was largely older people and mostly women. And so I got super excited when I showed up at the LTC retreat in 2022, right? I think that was the first retreat we did together. To see so many like men like of younger generation, including yourself, Corey. And it just felt like a tangible expression of the collective awakening that was happening, that like spirituality was never just for, women, but there was a tangible sense of like heart opening happening in souls incarnated as all bodies. And it was really, really, really exciting to me. And also, I love that in this community, everyone's so committed to this work and to taking responsibility for what they're seeing, that we could even like have people with like political disagreements be in the same room and like loving each other like from the heart.
Mm.
And that is something that's just so beautiful to witness and be a part of, especially in this day and age when there's so much divide happening in the country. So the the new community in light of the course that Corey and I co-founded along with our friends Megan Cephalon and Jason Deerdorf is an extension of essentially the alumni of the LTC community who wanted to stay together. And we are together exploring teachings that are related to or adjacent to A Course in Miracles or other teachings that whatever everyone's finding juicy. We're hosting readings. There's some book clubs. There's community circle where we just come together and share. There's a men's group that Corey and Jason are leading. There's all these explorations and offerings that each community member is invited to offer, to explore, to share with everybody so we can continue to support one another on this journey and not only deepen our studies in the spiritual path, but also grow as leaders and facilitators.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been so good. And I feel like the one theme too about everything we love to study in there, it's like they're all things that point us to that the highest truth, our true essence of who and what we are. Like we're all just that pure divine consciousness, that light coming through all these forms, through all these different experiences and ideas. And but that's the truth, is that divine innocence that's right there in everyone. And so to your point, like we could have completely different opinions about politics or any situation or thing, but we choose to see the truth and love that innocent being that's in front of us, regardless of what the mind thinks is has been conditioned to think now, and be now. So yeah, and these modalities just help me see that so clearly, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to go back to something you said earlier about how that state of being of love and heart opening that you experienced in your awakening at the airport is available to everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
mean,
yeah, and I mean, we, we all know it's a journey. It's a journey to discover
yeah.
that for ourselves. But if you were to talk to someone who's going through a dark night of the soul right now, finding themselves stuck in these very dense, challenging situations, whether it's a relationship challenge, going through a divorce or addiction or health challenge, financial challenge, feeling maybe a lot of shame and guilt or whatever emotions that they're carrying. What can you share with them about seeing their experience differently?
Okay. Yeah. Immediately what comes to mind. I mean, first too, like there's a lot in that experience and this journey that's hard to put into words, right? It's, you know, something to be experienced, and it's gonna be different for all of us. But the one thing that I've truly seen as I look back at all the times I was suffering or in an experience I didn't want, or, in my depression and things, as I look back now, all I see are gifts. All I see is what they gave me, and I wouldn't be who I am now without every one of them. Now, if when you're in it, sometimes that's not what you want to hear, and I get it. I've been down in there, and but to hold on to trust. I mean, if you can find community too, that's amazing. Support when you're lost in it in the dark. That's, I still lean on my brothers and sisters that I've studied and journeyed with to bring me back. Cause as we go, there's at least a seed of conviction that starts to grow as we choose to like lean in and maybe trust that there are gifts and that God's got us. But there's like a little resilience that starts to build, or that I've experienced on my journey. This little resilience that now, and I'm not saying I'm perfect and do it every time, but more often than not, like in the midst of a really trying time, whatever the magnitude that I'm perceiving of it, I immediately tune in. I'm like, well, if this really sucks, there must be a massive gift for me, So let me be patient and trust and do my practices and sit with it, or reach out to my community or someone that can get me back in my heart or help me get back to my heart. It's always an inside job, but um yeah, I would just say, reach out, and I'd be happy. I got lots of beautiful books that have really given me hope along the way, and like the Four Agreements, Power of Now, New Earth, um YouTube. There's so many beautiful spiritual teachers on YouTube. YouTube helped me heal a lot. I could be in one of those moments and go watch an Alan Watts video or Eckhart Tolle or something and completely shift my vibration, and they give you hope, and they start to show you that, like, I'm just trapped within the labyrinth of my mind right now. I'm trapped within my own stories, my own ideas, judgments, suffering. But whose are they all? They're all mine. So I I can let them go, So it's not as easy said as done, or done as said at times, but um, I just truly believe, and the course has taught me, my experience has taught me, that everything is happening for us, and that we have the power of creation, and we can work, in cooperation with it to create the positive, the joyful things we want in our life. But um, yeah, I mean, that's just what's coming through. I know it can be so dark sometimes. So anything that, create those lifelines for yourself, those ways that you can regulate your nervous system, your mind, calm things down, stillness, sitting outside, putting my feet on the grass. Like, these are all things that, can support that. And funny enough, in my experience, sometimes when you're like all spun up and you're in it, it's like the times you don't want it. No, I don't want to sit still and sit with this. And like, but it's truly the answer. Like, and that's what I've come to learn, is that's the ego resisting, keeping me in my suffering, keeping me in my story. So the more I do it, though, the more that it becomes available, like it's available in the moment for me to choose that again. Um, yeah, so it's been fun. It's been an evolution. Now though, I have more moments where I see the split of where, like, ego mind wants to take me down into one of those dark stories, or you know spirals. But I now have gained enough of wisdom in my own experience that I know there's nothing for me there. There's nothing in there for me. And in fact, me going in there will only keep it alive longer, because it has my attention, and I'm feeding it. And so, yeah, I mean, that was kind of a long-winded answer, but that's just everything I guess I wanted to come through. And I would be, I would love people that, you can share my Instagram things, like, reach out to me if you feel inspired, and, we'll see what spirit has. I don't claim anything anymore. I realize that I'm not doing anything. I'm not here to save anyone. There's nothing out there for me to fix. And in fact, the only job I have is to heal myself and save the world from me and my shadows and my darkness, and instead contribute love. Ultimately, it's all, yeah, that I want to leave in this world. So
Oh, thank you. Yes. How can people find you? You mentioned
Yeah, what's
Instagram.
my Instagram? I mean, you'll probably put it in the
I'll put it
description,
all in the
right? I
show
mean,
notes.
it's at Corey, Corey J Marsh, Corey J Marsh, my initial J, on Instagram, or, conscious-creations.com. We're finishing up our website and starting to get some offerings out there. You could reach out there. Or come check out In Light of the Course, inlightofthecourse.com. Yeah, you can join the community and try it out if you want, or you can message us with questions. Yeah, where else? Anywhere else you can think of?
Yes. Yes, in lightofthecourse.com, it is set up on Mighty Networks, and you can try it out. You can join and try it out for a week for free to see, explore the community and see if you find it to be a good fit. We have such a vibrant, committed group of Course in Miracles students and light workers who are just so passionate about this work and so happy to support one another. We're also many members are inspired to dive into Way of Mastery, which is another book which is another channeled book of Jesus's voice. So if you're curious, come check out inlightofthecourse.com.
Yeah, please do. It's like you say, it's a vibrant community of committed truth seekers, and there's, healers and teachers and yogis, and, like there's a whole bunch of beautiful connections in there. And I can't wait to see where that goes and how it grows. But yeah, we would love to have anybody that feels called. And you don't have to be a student of the course necessarily. Like, we're looking at, it's a very open space. It's, it's all inclusive. Like, there's no judgment there. We can put forth anything, and if it resonates, we can all dive in together. So, and it's a
Yeah,
true co-creation. Like, we're not, Rieko and Jason and Megan and I are not in charge of this whole thing and how it's supposed to look and be. We're so open to, we designed it as a true, like, fourth density. I don't know, many people will know what that means, but that's from the law of one, but just a true oneness, like, mindset where we're all equals and we're all creators, and spirit, God, universe, whatever you want to call that, uses all of us. So
absolutely. And I also wanted to ask you, Corey, about the men's group within In Light of the Course, because
yeah,
I think I'm just imagining, because I don't know, because I'm not a
you're not in
man in
there.
this lifetime. But I'm just so curious to hear how that's going. And like I mentioned a little bit before, that I know that, at least from what I hear from my male spiritual friends, that they often find themselves to be the only, or one of the two only male in the group sometimes when they go to a spiritual gathering. So I would love to hear your experience with the men's group specifically, of what you guys are diving into and why it's important for men to find support from one another.
That's a great point. That's a good question. Thank you. Yeah, and we would love to get more men in there. We are one of the smallest groups right now. Like, to your point, like, it has been less men in the proportion of things in these spaces. And when I started my journey, I found myself very often being the only man. But I've watched that this last several years start to shift. I'm seeing more and more men in these spaces. Um, and I think it's just so, you know, men, there's been a lot of, the masculine form and all the things that are supposed to go with it. Like, we've gone through these phases of toxic masculinity, but we're grown, brought up to man up. Like, you don't need to worry about your feelings. Like, get out there, And I'm grateful in this to the human design. I'm a Pisces, so, like, I was destined to be emotional, and that's why, and so it was easy for me to open. But just to have other men to walk alongside with, to realize like it's safe for us to open our hearts, to be vulnerable, but yet, powerful, and but to show up with all the healthy parts of this divine masculine design, that we are. Like, we've gone into, we've been reading a book about, the archetypes and the shadows of the male form, the masculine, and the healthy versions of that, stuff like that. We come together and share just about, what it's like, the mantle we carry as our function here and within our families. Um, but yeah, I do see a big surge of men starting to open their hearts and go within, and we've built a very intimate and just, beautiful, supportive, safe space in there. And yeah, I would love to see more men come join us and, just walk alongside each other. It's just good to be, we're all one, but like you say, we're experiencing these different human designs. And so it's good to have different lenses to look through together and come together with and support each other. So, um,
Thank
yeah.
you. Yeah, thank you so much, Corey. It's been such a joy and honor to receive your share today. Thank you so much for showing up, for your courage, for your
Mhm.
big heart. Uh, well, I think I'll pray us out to
Yeah.
close.
Yeah. It was my honor. Thank you for having me. And I got a lot of gifts out of this, being able to, see my journey as I share it and how far I've come. And, I'm not, like I said, I'm not like done. I haven't figured it all out. I'm not enlightened. I'm on this journey with all of you. I'm a teacher, a student, both, always. Um, and yeah, I'm just happy to be here and to know you, my friend.
Thank you, Corey. So I am taking a deep breath of so much gratitude for my brother Corey, his loving presence, his embodiment of the divine masculine, his open heart, and the profound story of healing and transformation that he shared with us so generously today. I am holding in my heart that whoever's listening who may be going through a dark time in their life, of moving through heaviness of density or shame or guilt, or all those heavy emotions might be coming up, doubting their self-worth, doubting why they're here. We just want to send them so much light and so much love and compassion, knowing that we were doing this together. All of us have walked that path, that shadow, in one way or another. And one thing we can assure you is that there is light guiding you. You are worthy just as you are. You are so worthy of love and support and all that your heart desires and more. And that any appearance of hardship, density, depression, anxiety, addiction, whatever may be, is the pressure that's turning you into a diamond. This incredible catalyst that you would look back later and realize that it was the best gift that you'd ever have, that had ever happened to you. And even in this moment, if that doesn't seem like a possibility, we're holding in our heart that the highest and best is unfolding for every single soul, every single brother and sister, and that not one of us is left out of the oneness that we are. Every single one of us is playing the perfect role that is so crucial to the healing of the collective, of the planet, of humanity, and that you are not alone. So I release this prayer knowing that it's already being answered, to feel the one that only says yes. So I let it be. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Corey. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Spirit. Thank you for the oneness of life. I let it be, and so it is.
So it is.
If you enjoyed this episode, I invite you to come check out our Substack at whenwearehealed.com, where you can subscribe to keep in touch and get show notes emailed to you. Sending you lots of love, and I'll see you in the next episode